and welcome back, everybody. I'm so glad that you could join me tonight. Welcome to Patti Starr's Supernatural Chronicles. I have a really fun story for you tonight. It's a little bit different from some of the other stories that I told you. It still involves some good EVPs, but I also wanted to let you know that it was during this investigation when I actually learned how to do what I refer to as digital dowsing. Digital dowsing. That's a little hard to say. Now, with that, dowsing is a skill that I like to use when I'm ghost hunting, and I use these L-shaped brass rods. And what I would do is ask yes and no questions. And if it was a yes answer, the rods would cross. If it was a no answer, the rods would turn out. And this worked for me really good. For years and years, I used the dowsing rods. But on this particular night, I took to this investigation my cell sensor meter, which is a meter that I would put in the pocket of my ghost hunter vest, and it had a little epaulette up here, and I would put my mic, or not my mic, but the probe here, and would walk around and just to see if I would get any kind of disturbance that would happen within the home, any disturbance in the electromagnetic field. So, let me go back and just tell you how I got this particular case. I was actually shopping at the Lexington Farmers Market, and this was in 2002. And on the back of my t-shirt that I was wearing, I had, ghosthunter.com. And this lady approached me because I'm very approachable, I think, when I have t-shirts on that give a website or that has a little logo on the front or something. I think it lets people know I'm a little more approachable, or otherwise I wouldn't wear that. So I had a lady come up and she asked me about the Ghost Hunter website. And I told her I was a ghost hunter, and she was like, "I am so glad I met you." She said, can you just take a few moments and let me explain something to you? And so I did. I went and we sat down on the bench there. My husband continued to shop and get fruits and vegetables. And she began to tell me some activity that was going on in her house. She had been married maybe about 5 to 10 years, and they had one little boy. And the activity that kind of started maybe a month or so ago. The activity, she felt like it wasn't anything threatening, that it was, she felt very comfortable with it. And she also thought it was a child, but she wanted to make sure, like asking me, could you come and investigate? Because she did have a child. I think at the time he was probably between 2 and 3, running around that age when they're getting into everything. And she just wanted to make sure that whatever was there, she had the correct feeling. It was okay, and she just wanted to make sure that there was nothing to be worried about. So I was pretty excited about that. I thought, yes, I will come to your house and do this investigation, and let's see what's happening. So as we were sitting on the bench, some of the things that she told me about the house, in other words, she said she would maybe be straightening or cleaning or washing dishes or whatever, and out of the corner of her eye, she would see a child running down the hall, and she'd think, oh my gosh. Well, she was pretty sure that her little boy was asleep, so she would go down the hall, look in the room, and sure enough, he was asleep. So she thought that was really, really odd. And then there were times when she would hear her little boy laughing and talking, and she knew he was by himself, and so she would go into the child's playroom. He had a very nice playroom. It was just full of toys. And when she would walk in, he would turn and look at her and stop talking, and she's like, well, who are you talking to? And he would just look at her and smile. He didn't really admit to talking to anybody. And she thought that was a little strange, you know. Then there were times when she would, I want to think of all the things. This was a really good one. In the middle of the nights, there was one or two of the baby's toys that had these batteries, and the toy would go off and it would make noise. So she would get up, you know, in the middle of the night, go and find the toy. And there was a lot of toys in that room. It was like you walked into the toy market of the world, and she would turn it off. Well, it got to where it would happen so much that they finally thought, let's just take the batteries out, which she did. And then this is why she really wanted me to come do an investigation, because she took the batteries out, and it didn't help, because the very next night the toy went off again with the noise and whatever the motion, and there were no batteries. Now, so of course I'm all excited and I do want to do this investigation. Okay, at the time, this was June 28, 2002. And I had been teaching at the local community college for about 2 years. And when I would have students that would come in and take my Ghost Hunter certification class, what I would do is I had a big pool to pull from, a big pool of names to pull from when I did an investigation. And I always liked to pull from my students because they were always wanting to go on these investigations after they got certified. So I called 4 different students. They all agreed to go, and they met me at this lady's house. And now we're getting ready to do this investigation just to see what we can find. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I asked the lady, I said, can you tell me where you get the most activity? Down the hallway, where they hear laughing, running, just a lot of that. And it's very audible, the noises that they hear. And then, of course, they took me back into the playroom where the toys would go off. And this was, of course, where the little boy liked to be most of the day when he was playing, when he was inside, was in his playroom. So what we did, the first thing that I wanted to do, and I would always like to do this so that I knew exactly if the meter went off, if it was going off because of a man-made element, or if it was going off because of the possibility of the spirit energy. So I went into the playroom and I did a complete walk around, and I had my probe, because I love using the cell sensor, and the cell sensor EMF meter has this long probe. So I went up and down the walls. I went over to where the electrical on and off switch. I went over to any of the little toys and animals to see if my meter went off, and it did not. The meter did not go off. And another thing that I do that I notice on when I'm watching, other ghost hunters, I don't see it quite as often, is I take the probe and I literally drop it to the floor, because a lot of times you can be investigating and all of a sudden the meter goes off like crazy, and because you didn't really pay attention to the fact that the furnace just came on. And so a lot of those ducts and also electrical is in the floor. So if you drop that probe to the floor, you'd be surprised at how much of a disturbance that you'll get from that, and it makes the meter go off like crazy. So I swept the whole room. I went up toward the lights, down the walls, and I went back and forth on the floor. No disturbance. So that sets me up right there to know that if the meter goes off, boy, I need to pay attention, because so far there's nothing in that room that should make the meter go off. So we after I did my sweep around, we just start taking pictures to see if we can pick up on any shadows, any, apparitions. Back then, we were focused a lot on the different orbs and things of that nature that might come through, vortexes, anything that had streaks of light. So we started taking pictures. Now, back then, in 2002, most of us were still using analog. A lot of us were not using the digital. I did have one digital camera. It was a Nikon digital. I'll have to just share this with you. You're going to think this is funny. I paid $1,200 for a Nikon digital, and it was 3 megapixels. I mean, that is megapixels. I mean, 3 for $1,200. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. So as we're taking pictures, of course, I'm talking. In the meantime, my husband, he's got his video recorder going, and I'm walking around, and then I thought, oh, I know what it was. All of a sudden, we all heard it. We heard the running down the hallway. Now, the little boy and the dad decided that he would take his little boy out. He did not want him to be there during the investigation. So there was no child. So we all looked around at each other and we're like, did you hear that? Yeah, did you hear that? You know. So now we're getting excited. And then the next thing to happen was my meter went off. And then it stopped. And then I walked around, and then it went off again. And then I stopped. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then this is the first time, like I said, that I ever thought about dowsing, but using the meter. That's why I call it digital dowsing. So then I'm going to play this little clip for you, and you will hear me talking to the little ghost, and I'm saying to it, I think you like my meter. You like the light when it comes up, and I think you're making my meter go off. And can you make my meter go off? And then the meter went off, and it's like, bop, 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 bop. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. So this was in 2002. It's actually the first time I had used the meter in communication. Usually when I would dowse, I would use my dowsing rod and ask yes and no questions to find out who was there. So then I said to the little boy, I said, ooh, can you make it go faster? And the meter starts going bop, 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 bop. And I'm like, oh, that's very good. Can you make it go faster? And then it's bop, 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 bop. And again, I ask, can you make it go faster? And then by this time, it's like, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you can hear me explain. And I'm standing perfectly still, and you can hear me explain to everybody in the room that I've got cold chills all over. Well, just as I said that, at that point, the camera, the video recorder that my husband had on us, the light went out. So I turned and looked at him, and I asked him if he realized the light went out. And he said, yeah, I put it on infrared to see if I could get anything. And so then the meter is still beeping really fast while all this is going on. And then I just thought, I said, can you stop? Can you stop the meter? And the meter stopped. Oh, I was so excited. Then I started asking if you to see if it would beep, if it was a little boy or a little girl. So I said, are you a little girl? And nothing went off, and I waited and waited, and then I said, are you a little boy? And then the meter went off. Now, when I play this for you, I'm going to have to play it in 2 parts, because at the time, the little recorder that I was using would only record up to 1 minute. And so what I had to do was restart it at the end of the right when the light went out on the camera. I had to restart it back at that point. And so the second half, where I'm asking the spirit if it was a little girl or a little boy, so it's in 2 parts. So the first part, I have to get my glasses out so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first part, you're just going to hear me discover that I think I've captured this spirit with my EMF meter, and you'll hear that meter going off.
I think there might be a child here that's playing. And I think you're having a lot of fun because you like to watch the red lights. See the red light? You can make that red light go off. Yes, you can. Very good. Very good. Can you make it go faster? Can you make it go faster? Can you make it go really fast? Thank you very, very much. We are recording this, so you'll be able to hear me asking the child spirit to make this go faster. I don't know what I'm standing around, but I am one big goosebump. Baby, are you picking up anything? The light went up.
All right, so that was the first part of that. Now I'm going to play the second part where I'm going to start asking the child to stop the meter, and then I'll ask some yes and no questions. So here's the second part.
Baby, are you picking up anything? The light went out.
No, I put it on infrared.
Okay, well, that's enough. Can you stop now? Can you just stop? Thank you. Thank you for responding to me. Maybe we could ask questions like, are you a little girl? If you're a little boy, can you make it go off if you're a little boy? Can you let me know? Oh, thank you. So we have a little boy with us tonight. Wow.
I would like to say one thing after this. This was something that I laughed about later. The 4 students that went with me to do this investigation, they also for the first time got to witness me using this EMF meter as a means of communication where it would answer back. And it was so funny because the very next day they came to my ghost hunter shop and they each bought one of those cell sensor meters so that they could themselves learn how to use it and to ask yes and no questions. And then we decided to move on down the hall. And I wanted to, I thought, when we get down to the end of the hallway where we thought we could hear him running up and down, I said, I'm going to get my dowsing rods and just see if I can ask some questions. So I pulled out my dowsing rods and I wanted to start asking questions. And so a lot of times right before I'll start, I'll ask permission. I'll say, can I please ask you some questions using my dowsing rod? And it was kind of funny because they went, no. And so usually if I get a no, I don't dowse. I respect the spirit and I don't dowse. So I'm kind of putting my dowsing rods away. And as I'm putting them away, I'm saying something to one of the students. Because again, even though they've graduated, they're still learning from me to go in the investigation. So I was telling them I won't do the dowsing if I get a no. And so I'm saying something of that effect to the former students that are there with me that night. And as I'm saying that, if you listen really close, you can hear an EVP, and it's a little boy, and he says, boring. Boring. And I thought, oh, boring? He's telling me I'm boring? And then I got to thinking, no, he liked answering me with the meter because the meter had the red light. The meter had the noise. So if I'd have probably put on the meter at that point and tried to communicate again, he might have been a little more having a little more fun with me and maybe answered that way. So I think it was his way of telling me, no, I don't want to communicate with you through those rods. Those are boring. So I'm going to play the next one for you. And this is a legit EVP. and listen very closely, because like in everything, he speaks over me as I'm speaking, and it's not very loud, but you'll hear him say, boring. All right, now I'm going to play it again. I say something like, I don't know what's going on, because I normally I do get cooperation with the dowsing rod, but since he said no, and I said, I don't know what's going on, and then you'll hear boring. So listen to me saying, I don't know what's going on, and then you'll hear the boring, and it is a child's voice. Boring. All right, so that was kind of neat. Now, the reason that I didn't at that moment know that the child had spoken is because back then I didn't have the digital where it was so quick to go back. What I would do is I would always have an analog recorder, and it would be a mini recorder, and I would put the recorder itself in my vest pocket, and then on this side, and here I had the EMF meter probe, and then on this side I had the mic. And so I never stopped my continuation of recording a ghost investigation until we ended, and then I would turn it off. So a lot of times I didn't catch my EVPs until after the investigation, and then I would have to kind of put everything together. And then when I would have what we refer to as a reveal, when I would go back into the home and I would talk to the family. And it was kind of funny at the beginning. The husband wasn't really on board for his wife to have me come in. That's why he left. He said, I don't want any part of this. He left and took the baby. But when I did the reveal, he was very respectful. He didn't say anything that was inappropriate or anything like that. But as I played everything back and kind of explained, I said, I don't think you have anything to worry about. You've got this wonderful little male spirit, little boy spirit, and who wouldn't want to come here and play with these toys and be friends in such a friendly home? There's such a good energy here at this home, and they were very truly blessed. They both, he had a extremely good job and could made enough that his wife could stay home and raise the little boy and furnish this little boy with the most beautiful little bedroom, and then he had a playroom, and so all of this. So it made sense to me. Why not go to this place where he could have so much fun? So they were happy with the fact that they didn't feel like they had anything to fear. So they were accepting of the little spirit, and they didn't really feel like that they needed to have some kind of exorcism or anything like that. So and then at the end, it was kind of nice when her husband started asking more questions that were relevant to what we did and how we did it. And so it was pretty nice I felt like that I had made a new friend, and that he respected what we had to do. So that's my story tonight, and I will tell you that later on, if you want to, I'll be writing my blog, and later on, if you want to get a little more details on some of the things that we did and how we enjoyed going there and doing this particular investigation, and that the fact that I was able to do the digital dowsing, I was so excited about that, and that's when I started asking the yes and no questions of my meters. I think then later on, when all of the other ghost hunting shows and things started, they started using the K2 meter, asking yes and no's. And the K2 meter doesn't really make noises, but it lights up. It goes from like a yellow, and then orange, and then red, and then green, I think, or something like that. And I've never used the K2. I just like the cell sensor meter. It's always been real sensitive, and that's been my meter. But any of those EMF meters that you might have, K2, cell sensor, or even the ghost meter will work just as well. you can try the digital dowsing and see if it works for you. It's always a thrill when I can get it to come through. And another thing too that I learned with the digital meter is that you can also ask how many ghosts are with you, and then you can ask that it beep out the number really slow, and I've had a lot of success with that. And so you can say, can you beep out how many spirits are here, and please go slow, and it will go like beep, 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 and it, you can count up. I think I've had up as I think the highest number I've had has been right around 15, 16. So you can try that too as well, using the K2 meters to see if they'll beep out how many spirits or ghosts are actually on the investigation with you. So you might want to try that. So anyway, I want to thank you again for joining us. And I hope that you will like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon so that it can tell you when we're going to have another YouTube. Also, if you go to pattystarr.com, I have my blog there, and I have the information about the Bardstown Ghost Trek. I'm going into my 24th year, so I hope that you'll join me this year. And also, I don't know if it'll be my next YouTube or one that's pretty close in the future. I'm going to do some more EVPs and also some apparition pictures of Jesse James, and let you know how that goes. I've got a lot to share with you on that. So you guys, take care, and thank you so much for joining me again. I sure do appreciate it. Bye.